Many of you who have watched my videos, you know that I speak about the issue of depopulation quite a lot in my videos. But perhaps there's like an angle that I haven't really addressed. For instance, I've spoken about chemtrails and how and GMO food and the poisoning of our food with things like glyphosate and I'm not sure if I've even said that correctly, but I can. It's a bit hard for me to remember how to say that word exactly. But so we have chemtrails, GMO food, poisoning of food with insecticides, and what else? The fluoridation of our water. Of course, we have war. It's another depopulation tactic. That's why we have so many wars going on, and the wars that happened in the past. Of course, we have vaccines, and but something that I maybe haven't spoken about that much in my videos is the issue of euthanasia, which is actually another thing that is used for the purpose of depopulating the earth. Now, the question I want to address in this video is euthanasia ever right? Is it ever right for doctors or the so-called health service to assist someone in dying? Personally, my view is no, because there are things that can be done. Because someone who says this, it could be argued where if the person is in a lot of pain, maybe it's better to put them out of their pain and just inject them with a lethal injection so that they die, because no one wants to suffer, and their relatives also don't want to see them suffering. But there are lots of things that can be done to alleviate human suffering. But those things are not normally done. There seems to be a lot of focus in certain countries, especially, and I'll mention some of the countries here on in the video, that there's a lot of focus on as soon as it looks like someone is suffering, whether they are suffering physically, they are in pain, or they have mental health issues, they're offered euthanasia. And sometimes it's not really the word euthanasia that's actually used. They will use other different words rather to basically express the same thing. It's basically euthanasia is killing of a person. It's normally done by doctors. Okay. So what I would say before I even start reading some of this text here is my reasons for opposing euthanasia, which I've already said is part of the depopulation agenda, is that I think the most important thing here on this earth is human life. There's nothing more precious than human life, and I believe everything should be done to safeguard human life. But we see that even in things like this pandemic and in the wars that are going on, and in many different ways, through abortion and other things, there's a blatant disregard for human life. Human life is not valued that much by the authorities, by the so-called healthcare system. So those are my thoughts. I think everything should be done, everything possible should be done to save human life, rather than to say, oh, you're in pain, can we offer you MAID, like what they do in Canada, and MAID stands for medical assistance in dying, So that way when someone is in pain, or they are homeless, or they say they're depressed, some places, including Canada, they are offering them assisted suicide. So let me just read the first text here, and as you can see, it's in red here, so it indicates that it was Jesus talking, and this is from John 10:10. It says, "The thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy." Okay, and in fact here, although it's not addressed specifically, Jesus was talking about Satan. Okay, so in contrast to what the devil does, which is to steal, kill, and to destroy, he says, "I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly." So Jesus wants us to have an abundant life here on this earth. Excuse me. Even though this world is full of wickedness and many bad things. Okay, there are many bad things that happen in the world, but even as wicked and as bad and as evil as the world is, Jesus still wants us to live our lives to the fullest potential. Okay, so that's what he meant by us having a more abundant life. Okay, so the most widely recognized first rule of medicine was attributed or is attributed to Hippocrates, and that principle is referred to as first do no harm. Okay, let me just read that again. The most widely recognized first rule of medicine attributed to Hippocrates is the principle to first do no harm. So remember how I earlier on I referred to the healthcare system and how they're offering in certain countries, anyway, not everywhere, but they're offering certain people, assisted suicide, being assisted by doctors. Doctors are not supposed to do any harm, and that would include a whole realm of things. Even the vaccines, okay, the jabs. In fact, today is the 22nd of August, 2026. A few days ago in America, it was said that Trump, I think, and the FDA approved the flu vaccine, which contains mRNA, which has mRNA technology, the same as the COVID injections. Of course, there are many doctors and scientists who have come out and said that these injections are actually harmful. So this should not be happening. In fact, there are some who have opposed mRNA vaccines so much that they've said that even the previous ones that came out during this pandemic should be actually should be destroyed and stopped. Okay, but now they're actually introducing a flu vaccine that also has mRNA technology, which will also obviously have the same effect as the COVID injections. So I'm saying the first rule of medicine is first do no harm. So that would apply to euthanasia, because the euthanasia is actually being done mostly in hospitals. So here I've got a list of countries where euthanasia is, in quotes, legal, okay, because as far as I'm concerned, killing someone or murder is never legal. It says here, as of 2026, active voluntary euthanasia is legal in Belgium, Canada, and in Canada there's a big push to conduct what's called medical assistance in dying. They call it MAID over there. Okay. In fact, I watched a podcast on. I don't know how many of you know Seth Horehouse. I normally watch his videos on Rumble, but I believe he's also on YouTube as well. He interviewed a Canadian who is opposed to euthanasia in Canada, and this guest on Seth Horehouse's channel said that up to, I think it's 100,000 Canadians have been euthanized since euthanasia was so-called made legal in Canada. Okay, so then we have Colombia as well, Ecuador, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Portugal, Spain, Uruguay, and all 6 Australian states: New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Tasmania, Victoria, and Western Australia. Over here in Zimbabwe, where I am, there's no euthanasia. Okay, and I know that in the UK, I think euthanasia is also not allowed, and sometimes those who want assistance in committing suicide will very often fly to different countries to have that done. They'll fly to mainland Europe, but I think sometimes they'll fly to the Republic of Ireland as well, from what I remember, to be assisted in committing suicide. I know that Andy Burnham, the new Prime Minister, wasn't even voted in. Not that voting matters anyway, because if voting made a difference, it wouldn't be allowed. But I think he has put a pause on allowing euthanasia in the UK. Okay, so it says here Portugal's law was passed in 2023, so not that far back, but awaits final regulation, while Uruguay's law was promulgated in April 2026, so this year. Physician-assisted suicide, where the patient self-administers the lethal dose, is additionally legal in Switzerland. So this is where, So this is where the person who wants to commit suicide is actually given the lethal injection, but they administer it themselves. Okay, and this happens in Switzerland, Australia, Germany. It says in Jersey. Jersey is an island next to the. I think it's part of the UK. In the United States, medical aid in dying is legal in 13 states and the District of Columbia. They are referring to Washington, D.C. here, it also includes California, Colorado, Hawaii, Maine, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and more recently Delaware, Illinois, and New York. Okay. And this came into New York. New York introduced euthanasia recently, 2025, 2026. In Canada, assisted suicide is called MAID, medical aid, medical assistance in dying. Okay, and I actually read a few years ago, I don't know if this is still the case, it might have changed, but I read a few years ago that when you phone the hospitals in Canada because you want medical assistance, option number 5 is actually euthanasia. Okay, it's all which they refer to as MAID over there. Okay, and of course, euthanasia is part of the eugenics movement. And what is eugenics? Eugenics is this movement, or it's a belief system where it's believed that some lives are not worth living. So, for instance, if you know how doctors sometimes will say that a baby that's still in the womb has, they know that the baby's got Down syndrome, and then they'll tell the mum or the parents, or advise the mum to abort the baby because that the life of that baby is not worth living. Or if they think, they do some kind of scan and they find that a baby in the womb has got some other kind of genetic disorder, or they're going to be born with a deformation, whether they've got a short leg or they're missing a limb or fingers, they might say it's better to abort that baby. That's actually part of the eugenics. It's part of eugenics, okay? And this just reminds me of Bill Gates' dad, who was one of the directors of Planned Parenthood in America. He's obviously late now. He passed away in 2021, if I remember correctly. So as far as I'm concerned, Bill Gates and his family, they are a eugenicist family, and we know that Bill Gates is very much into vaccines and depopulation through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which some incorrectly think is all to do with philanthropy. Philanthropy it's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with depopulation. Okay. So, yeah, I won't read any of this here, but what you have to bear in mind for those that would think that euthanasia somehow is helping those that are suffering, and whether they are in physical or some kind of mental distress, just bear in mind that dead people don't require health care. So that saves the state a lot of money, okay? Dead people don't collect pensions. And in fact, this is partly what was happening during this pandemic, that those who are paying attention, I'm sure you noticed that the elderly in the nursing homes, there was a big push, especially in places like the UK, to administer remdesivir to kill the elderly, because to stop them collecting pensions, okay, because this costs the state a lot of money, even though the elderly who are in the nursing homes have actually contributed to their pensions. But yeah, it's interesting how there's the money to look after the welfare of the elderly is not sufficient. They'll claim that there's not enough money. That's why they keep pushing the retirement age, because retirement age used to be 65, but now I think at the moment in some countries it's 66, and they want to push it up to 67. And for private pensions, you could take your retirement at the age of 55, but now they're saying in 2028 they want to push it up to 57. So yeah, it's like there's all these things being done to stop people taking their pensions, because it costs the state money, because maybe they want to use that money on war, like what's going on right now with all these wars that are being fought in different parts of the world. Something else, dead people don't collect disability benefits. Remember that I said in eugenics they'll say there are certain lives that are not worth living. And in fact, I know that this happened as well during World War II, with the Nazis, they actually eliminated certain people who were deemed not to be. Their lives were not worth living. The disabled, those who had some kind of genetic disorder. Okay, and this next thing I've shared with you many times. This Jacques Attali. Maybe for those who are watching this for the first time, but I won't read all of it. This guy called Jacques Attali, who's a member of the Bilderbergers, he wrote a book called Verbatim in 1981, in which he said, I'll just read the first line here. He said the future will be about finding a way to reduce the population. So euthanasia is one of them. It's just that maybe I didn't really talk about it that much, but yeah, it's definitely one of the things that are being used to depopulate the earth. Let me just share a few more things with you, and then we'll end the video. Okay. And I think I might have shared some of this in some of my other videos, but yeah, just a quick run through. Julian Huxley said the human race will be the cancer of the planet. So if the human race is the cancer, what do you need to do? You need to kill people to get rid of them. And the late Prince Philip said, in the event that I am reincarnated, I would like to return as a deadly virus in order to contribute something to solve overpopulation, which is a myth, by the way. And then we have the late Henry Kissinger, who said depopulation should be the highest priority of foreign policy towards the third world. And not just the third world, but the whole world, basically. Ted Turner, who passed away, I think just over a month ago, he says overpopulation is the cause of drive-by shootings and other social ills. But the root of the problem is Christianity, which posits that people are more important than sea otters and elephants, which they are. People are more important than otters and elephants. That's why I said at the very beginning of the video that there's nothing more important than human life here on this earth, but human life is being devalued to justify killing of innocent people by different means. One of which is euthanasia. And Ted Turner said once again, a total population of 250 to 300 million people, a 95% decline from present levels would be ideal. And of course, David Rockefeller also felt the same way. He said the negative impact of population growth on all our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident. And of course, this whole thing about climate change and the environment, saving the environment and looking after the environment, and the environment being more important than human life, it's actually nature worship. It's known as pantheism. Okay, that's what climate change is. Actually, it's actually pantheism. Of course, the goal, the hidden agenda behind climate change, or one of the hidden agendas is to have one day in which the whole world will rest, and that day will be Sunday. Okay, all linked into digital IDs and CBDCs and all the other stuff like what's going on in China. Social credit score. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. We have here an article from a newspaper in which it said that kids are cute, but they are not really eco-friendly. So in other words, don't have kids, okay? Another way to depopulate the earth. And then we have here, I think this is a plaque from, not even I think, I know this is a plaque from the Georgia Guidestones. I don't know how many of you know about the Georgia Guidestones. I don't know if I have them here. If anyone doesn't know what the Georgia Guidestones were, because they've since been demolished, you can look them up on your search engine. On the plaque, it actually said the author of, there were like 10 commandments, so-called, on the Georgia Guidestones, and I think they were written in 12 languages, if I remember correctly. It said the author of the writing that was on the Georgia Guidestones was R.C. Christian. It says a pseudonym. And there are some who have said that R.C. Christian is Roman Catholic. It's actually, this is a fictitious person. It actually stands for Roman Catholic Christian. In other words, the Catholic Church was behind the Georgia Guidestones. Georgia Guidestones were actually demolished. Someone placed a bomb on them and blew them up. I'll just share one more thing here about depopulation. This is from a newspaper from June 2011, from a newspaper called the Sovereign Independent, in which they quoted Bill Gates from his TED Talk, where he spoke about vaccines being used to reduce the world's population by 10 to 15%. It says here depopulation through forced vaccination, the zero carbon solution. Okay, so yeah, the many different ways in which this is done. How depopulation is being done. But I'm just sharing all this to just make you aware of one other way in which it's being done, and that's through euthanasia. It's good for us to be aware of all these things so we can actually avoid them. But that's what I wanted to share in this video. Please share your comments in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video.
This is absolutely nuts. Have you ever heard of a doctor giving medical treatment outside of a Tim Hortons? Well, there's a doctor who gave an assessment outside of a Tim Hortons. And after the doctor did that, he drove him to get made. The patient had inflammatory bowel disease, and he had a history of mental health issues. Then that same doctor personally drove him to go get made. In the location that the doctor drove him to, the Globe and Mail described this place as an industrial-like facility where bodies are prepared for funerals. And listen to this, the same doctor, Dr. James McLean, in a different case, he failed to administer one of 3 drugs that are required for MAID. One that paralyzes the muscles, including the muscles involved in breathing. So the patient resumed spontaneously breathing again after initially being pronounced dead, and after the doctor had already left the home. For those who don't know, there's currently an exclusion for MAID and mental health, meaning you can't get MAID if you do have mental health. The Liberals have actually postponed that until 2027. So this exemption expires then. They wanted to do it a few years ago. There was so much backlash against this, and people were so disgusted by the thought that their 18 and 19-year-old kids who have mental health issues can immediately receive MAID without parental consent. It's a scary thought, but a possible one under the Liberal government. So what they did is, instead of repealing it, they kicked the can down the road, thinking that, you know what, maybe later on in time, things will be okay. Well, that expiration date is going to come due soon. And we can never, ever allow this to happen in Canada. This is absolutely insane. If no Canadians are getting free healthcare outside of a Tim Hortons, what makes you think it's okay to drive people to get killed? This is not normal.